And so it's not a difficult thing to understand. It's not a difficult thing behaviorally to understand why we want to get out of debt first. And it's especially not difficult to understand when you look at things through a retirement income lens. Because for most people, we're talking about people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, relatively young, not really close to retirement in most cases. But I mean, if you're going to give advice to one group of people, you need to give it to all groups of people, right? And that's what I'm trying to do, is trying to give advice that will work for all groups of people. And so whether you are 25 or 55, it will work for you to get out of debt, right? It will work for you to not have debt laying around. Now, why does it work, and why does it become even more obvious for a 55-year-old? Well, because the older you get, the more difficult it is to create a nest egg that will suffice in retirement, right? The longer you wait, the more difficult it is to create a nest egg because time is your friend when it comes to investing. We know this. Time is key. Time is your friend when it comes to investing. And I want everybody to start as early as possible. But, right? But given that time is key, and let's say you're 55, you don't have much time, the best way for an individual that is closer to retirement to prepare themselves for retirement is to get their debts paid off. Now, why? Because it is easier to pay off those debts, right, and not have them around, therefore decreasing their need for income in retirement, than it is to create the retirement income that it's going to take to service those debts and live your current lifestyle. It is easier to do that. Right? Now, as a 20, 30, 40-year-old, you may not feel that because you still got those checks coming in every 2 weeks, right? You may not feel that that's easier to do. You may not feel that is necessary in your life, and you may still want to play the game of having the debt and investing and whatever. You're not following the financial action plan, but I'm not going to kick you. If something works for you, whatever, something works for you. I'm just telling you that leaves the door open for far too much to go wrong. And it is not advice that is perfectly applicable to all ages of people, to all people in all stages. I think that being out of debt is vital, not just for freeing up your cash flow when you're younger, but the fact that when you are older and you're trying to retire, right, you can retire earlier, right? You can retire quicker. You can be in a better place when you begin retirement just by getting rid of all of those expenses that you had, all those bills that you have, and really minimalizing the expenses that you owe to lenders, to other people, things like that. That way, when you're in retirement, you need less income in order to live a comfortable life. And that is why I'm telling you, let's put off investing for some time, right? And let's be able to get out of debt first and build up savings first. Because if you have those foundational steps in place, then it's okay if we have a little less invested. It's okay if we're able to, spend a couple years paying off debt and paying the price to win, right? Again, people who argue against this don't want to pay the price to win, right? Anything worth having, right? I had this conversation with my wife not long ago. Anything worth having, right? I realize it costs something, right? Nothing is free. Nothing is free. Everything comes at a cost. These stimulus checks that everyone's receiving, right? Even those come at a cost. What's the cost? Is more national debt, right? Or what's the cost? Maybe taxation at a certain rate, right? These things, they cost us in some way. Anything that is free is going to cost us, okay? And so if it seems that you have a lot of income that is freed up to be able to invest, right, and you go ahead and invest it, but you're still servicing debt, right, that decision can cost you in the long run. But if you make difficult decisions today, if you make a decision today, right, that says, hey, I want to build the best financial life for myself and free up the most income for myself over the long term, the way that you're going to do that is by paying off your debts first, is by paying off your debts, getting an emergency fund set up, and then getting into investing at a higher rate. Because again, I want you to invest, right? I talk about investing all the time on this show. I absolutely want you to do that. But I do not want you to do that in lieu of your financial freedom, right? I mean, the Bible even says the borrower is slave to the lender. Dave Ramsey says that all the time, right? He talks about that all the time. And I ascribe to a lot of Dave Ramsey's ideologies, but not all of them, right? He wouldn't tell you to invest anything before paying off debt, but I allow you that that match, right? Getting the free money. But nonetheless, right, if the borrower is slave to the lender, we do not want to be enslaved to anything financially, right? We don't want to be tied down. We don't want to be shackled. We don't want to be chained to anything financially. We want to have as much financial freedom as possible. That's one of my big things, right? Is financial freedom. I want you to have financial freedom. And the only way you can be truly free financially is to not owe anyone anything, right? Is to not owe anyone any money, right? And I understand, again, the math behind it, that compounding at a higher rate of return is going to be beneficial mathematically over the long term. I completely understand, right? I understand that if you're putting money away and you're doing it as early as possible, your money is going to be able to compound for you at a much higher rate. But I also understand that the ability to live below your means and the ability to be out of debt, right, will get you somewhere that you never thought possible, right? It will free up so much cash flow that you will be able to invest more. You will be able to give more. You will be able to spend more. Because if your cash flow is so strained when you're young because you have all this debt and you are trying to invest and pay off debt and do all of these things all at once, and your cash flow is so strained, then you're going to be doing everything kind of halfway, right? Everything's going to be a little half-baked. And investing is the only place in which the compounding effect makes more sense. But you have to think, you're going to be giving less, you're going to be able to spend less on yourself and your family and enjoying the things that you want to do. I mean, you're going to be able to do a lot less outside of investing and paying off debt than you would if you get your debts paid off and free up a lot of your income, right? It is a freeing feeling to not have debt. I am in the club. I am in the debt-free club. And in having no debt, I feel the freedom to be able to invest more. I feel the freedom to be able to use extra money, bonuses, or heck, if it's stimulus checks these next couple weeks, right? To be able to use that amount of money in order to invest, in order to grow money for the future, in order to continue to grow my financial life, in order to continue to benefit me and my wife into the future. Because the fact that we don't have debt, right, allows us to look up and go, okay, well, we don't owe anybody anything and we have an emergency fund. Okay, well, what can we do with this money? We can spend it, we can give it, and we can invest it, right? And so we do all three, right? We spend money on some things that we want, we give money in the way that we want to give it, and we invest money in the way that we want to invest it. And we can do so in amazing amounts and radical amounts that could not be done in the same way if we were still working towards paying off debts.